Is AI going to replace SAP professionals in the long term? What are the opportunities in AI and how can you explore them? Well, ChatGPT quickly became the fastest growing app in history since its introduction in November 2022. AI could potentially be very useful in the SAP field. It's been shown that approximately 70% of the world's business transactions touch an SAP system at a point. So the natural question would be, how can AI be used in an SAP context? What does this mean for the SAP community and clients? And what about your SAP career? I have reached out to someone who I believe can help us looking into the world of what's possible and at least start scratching the surface of possibilities. I would like to introduce to you Mateusz Skriniak. Mateusz is based in Warsaw, Poland, and has his own SAP advisory company, Evotex. And he's going to tell us about his experience with ChatGPT in a SAP development environment. Mateusz, welcome to the show.
Hi, Klaus. Thanks very much for having me. Hi, everyone.
So, why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about your background?
Sure, perfect. Thanks. Well, I've been working with the SAP technology for about a decade now. Started my career in Ireland, working for SAP directly. Then I had a couple of different projects, including a long-term engagement in Asia, in Southeast Asia. After which I moved to Germany, where I was also responsible for development of two at the time they're called one support launchpad applications, so standard applications that were delivered to SAP customers. And we had a team of about 12 developers. I was kind of responsible for the architecture as well as leading the team. After this, back in 2019, I moved back to Poland, where I started working as a technical development manager for a big client of SAP. And I was basically responsible for this transformation of development processes, tools, and yeah, everything to do with the move to S4 HANA. So we had the old world of SAP ECC, and we had the new target world of S4 HANA. And the common misconception is that we focus on the business. And the developments or the technical side will just move along and it'll work out. But that's a kind of bad thing to assume. And this is where we had a central team of other technical development managers who were also responsible for guidelines. And we had an S4 HANA technical readiness team who acted as the experts to aid with this transformation. Then I decided to go out on my own, and then now I'm supporting clients in the same topic. So getting ready or becoming ready for becoming S4 HANA ready, especially from this development point of view.
Okay, cool. And so now come November 22 and ChatGPT was launched. So how did you decide to get involved in exploring or experimenting with ChatGPT?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We've been hearing about artificial intelligence and technology in general taking over jobs, right? Shop assistants, or banking professionals, the people in the banks, in the branches. I'm not sure what their names are, what the actual profession is called. But a lot of the kind of repetitive tasks could be automated with technology, right? So you go to a shop now, and a lot of the shops in Poland, you don't even have to talk to a shop assistant. You can just go to this automated or automatic counter where you scan your items, pay, and go, right? So this kind of interaction is slowly vanishing. What's interesting though is you've never heard of developers actually potentially being replaced, and this is what made me wonder, right? November last year, when ChatGPT was first announced, people were suddenly saying, "Hey guys, you techies who always thought that your jobs will be safe forever are now kind of endangered, because this thing can generate code, this thing can build almost ready apps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And guys, in 2 or 3 years, I even had an argument on LinkedIn with somebody under one of my posts where they said, well, why are you even bothering with all of this advancements and new ABAP, etc., because you're going to get replaced by ChatGPT in 2 or 3 years anyway. And this kind of made me wonder. And I said, okay, well, is it really this powerful? Is it really the case? And then I decided to give it a shot and try to find a scenario or even a use case for it. Or even try to dig deeper into the details of what it could potentially become, right? And this is what made me kind of want to play around with it.
Okay, cool. And so, how did you approach it, and what did you do?
Yeah, well, I started with a problem. So the problem was, well, the problem for me, but potentially a solution for many businesses out there, is that developers can be replaced with ChatGPT, right?
Hmm.
So this is where I started with. I started kind of first of all reading a little bit about it on a high level, and second of all, started prompting ChatGPT with various tasks to see how it would behave, what the quality of code it would deliver, and whether this code could literally be copied and pasted into an IDE, so a development environment, and basically run on a system. And the results were actually quite surprising. The
Hmm.
quality of these outputs was, I wouldn't say perfect. In fact, a lot of the times it was far from perfect,
Hmm.
but it helped to really kind of speed up some of the boring tasks that developers have to do. So, for example, building a structure of classes, right, or preparing test classes for ABAP unit, and these things could be automated, but I don't think we're there yet to feel
Hmm.
endangered. And this is what I also said in one of my articles on LinkedIn and also on the SAP blog, is that I don't think it's a threat yet. Um,
Right.
it's still kind of difficult to surely say, okay, this will go one way or the other, because I know that the potential is really high.
Hmm.
But as of now, if a developer is worried that, in 2 or 3, if they read the comment of the guy that posted under one of my posts on LinkedIn that we're going to get replaced, and if they're worried, then I don't think they should be, because I don't see developers being replaced, especially in the ABAP environment, and especially in the next few years.
Right. And just for our understanding, you use the off-the-shelf version of ChatGPT. It wasn't trained on something specific SAP, or has it been trained, let's say, in general, as a part of their preparation of launching? What version did you use, and what level of proficiency, so to speak, would it have at this point?
Yeah, well, I use the general version, this
Okay.
open version of OpenAI ChatGPT that's available to everybody.
Okay.
And when you say when you asked about training, there's actually one kind of funny thing that I'd bring up here, is that ChatGPT works well when you give it enough context. So ideally, as of now, you should know what to expect to make good use of it. And so if
Yes.
you are completely clueless and you go into it and say, okay, write me a program that does X, Y, and Z, and you have absolutely no idea what the output should look like or
Hmm.
how it should behave, etc., then the odds are very high that the generated result will be far from what it should be, right? And
Right.
one example that I would give here is that I prompted ChatGPT. I can't remember the exact logic, but I asked it, okay, can you write code to, I don't know, process entries from a specific table? And I knew more or less what the results should be. At least I knew the tables, and if you're from the SAP background, you're familiar with the database tables, and I knew what the results should be, and I had a look at the results that was generated by ChatGPT, and then I realized, hey, hang on, but this is a completely different table, completely different fields. I think it made them up because they're not SAP fields, and
Okay.
they're not even SAP tables. And you're like, oh, hang on. So it is not. I mean, it doesn't provide a perfect answer every time, and that's why it's always good to cross-check it. At least the current version of ChatGPT, you still need to cross-check the results with a reliable source of information, or ideally with your experience. And this is why I keep saying that I don't think it should be a threat just yet. On the other hand, everybody's talking about this next generation of ChatGPT, right? I think it's called ChatGPT 4.
Hmm.
That is a couple of hundred times more powerful, more educated, and but it's all very hypothetical, so it's difficult for me to comment. Where this new version will bring us.
Of course. And Matthias, one thing we didn't mention, but I think that's worth talking about. You personally do not have an AI background, right? You come from the SAP side, if you will. You know the development process, the ABAP and tools and platforms and so on, but you do not come specific from an AI background. I think that's so. It would be important to emphasize that this is what potentially anyone can do at this point. Of course, if there would be specific, moving in direction of joining a AI knowledge with SAP knowledge, that would maybe be a different path or a different way forward. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, the fact that I don't, you stated that correctly, Klaus. I don't come
Mhm.
from an AI background. I've been hearing of AI for the last few months, years, etc. I think as much as everybody else, maybe, a little bit extra because I'm kind of technical. But I'm far from being any sort of expert on AI. And if you were to ask me two or three AI specific questions here, I would probably have to disconnect and
Sure.
pretend that my internet is just after dropping off. But yeah, well, on the other hand, it's also interesting, right, that a person who has just a very high level of AI knowledge, almost no AI specific knowledge, can open this thing and can start writing or sending questions and can generate results in a very kind of user friendly, intuitive way. And they can be used almost immediately, right? The feedback is almost instantaneous, and this is also what makes it powerful, and this is, I think, what's also causing a stir. So kind of, anybody can open this and type in write me a program, or type in, I don't know, plan me a trip, and this thing will help. And this is, I think, where this whole concern of developers being replaced is coming from, right? Because anybody can use it. As I said, it's still missing this little bit of context. It's still maybe missing some sort of quality assurance
Sure.
to ensure that the results are really what you expect them to be. But it's on the right track, but not
Yeah.
there yet.
And by the way, we haven't mentioned that either, but you wrote an article a few weeks ago, and we'll provide a link to that in the text below this recording. And one of the things that I think is worth mentioning, that in any case, if you have start using technology, at some point you'll start using it and become more productive. You will sort of, it's like exploring new land, if you will, and there's no way we can foresee what's around the corner. But if you can start using it to be more productive, 10, 20, 50%, whatever. We cannot put the numbers on that, but I think that is important to notice, that you can do something yourself by start doing it, start doing something and explore it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think even though it's not there yet to replace us
Hmm.
yet, and it will most likely not be there to replace us, because even if the next version is powerful enough, by the time we build processes around it, by the time companies start to govern the results, because at the end of the day, if you want to introduce ChatGPT into your organization and you
Mhm.
let everybody use it and kind of expose company secrets to it, then you want to be 100% sure that that it's somehow secured, that the inputs are not going to be misused, etc. But this is still I would say a couple of years away. But what I
Sure.
would say right now is that the strength of ChatGPT, and I assume the future versions of ChatGPT, is only kind of visible when you start feeding it with appropriate prompts and appropriate context. Because at the end of the day, it's a AI bot, right? It doesn't know what's in your brain, and if you're
No.
requesting it to build something and you don't provide it enough context, and this is another problem that I noticed, it never comes back with an answer saying, actually, could you provide more context? Instead, it just spits out some result
Hmm.
that might be correct or might be completely wrong. Just like in the case that I gave earlier on, right? The example of asking it to process a table, and suddenly it doesn't the table name or the fields don't even exist in an SAP system. So this is kind of, at the moment, it's all about providing it with the right context and
Right.
learning how to, first of all, train it, because every session that you open in OpenAI, right, you can first spend some time on training it to kind of deliver content or the context, and only then you send the proper queries. And I actually had a case yesterday. I think I've also shared some information about it on LinkedIn, where I think I've found a semi-decent use case for it
Hmm.
even now. And that would be essentially telling ChatGPT, okay, here is some code. So here is a class written in ABAP. Can you please provide me with unit tests for it? And this is something that developers absolutely hate doing. And any
Yeah.
customer I've worked with, they're always like, everybody pushes for ABAP unit, but nobody really does it. And then projects don't want to invest money because they don't see the benefit, right? And it's like it's just going around in a circle. Well, maybe this is a use case that we should now start investigating, right? So
Okay.
let the developers still write their code just like they used to, but at the
Mhm.
end, let's take this code that's written, send it to ChatGPT, obviously after providing them with enough context, and say, okay, can you generate some unit tests? And I'm not saying that the results will be perfect. They will most
Mhm.
likely be, far from perfect. But instead of having a 10 or 15% overhead on top of the kind of programming cost, it might go down to 8 or 12%, right? Which I think is
Yeah.
already a significant number for many organizations out there. But
Sure.
then we have to come back to the topic of security, right? So code that's written within companies maybe shouldn't be leaked out, and I'm not sure. I'm not a kind of legal expert here in this area, so this is also, I probably don't want to comment, but we should still keep it in the back of our heads that
Right.
at the end of the day we are copying the code that we've written and sending it to some sort of a chat that's online, right? So
Right.
that raises questions.
And to your knowledge, are you aware of any SAP clients that are sort of actively dabbling into this area, exploring it, trying to find out things, or where are we in general? Do you meet strange reactions when you talk to someone about it, or where are we? Is it your feeling that somebody is trying to embrace this on a larger scale, at least exploring it?
I think it's still pretty unknown, and as I
Hmm.
said, SAP clients are normally big organizations. They're not kind of 10 people organizations with one single developer who can go in and try his own things. So everything is also kind of under the umbrella of governance and security, etc. So
Yeah.
I have a feeling, I've personally not encountered anybody who really has ChatGPT integrated into their processes, and I highly doubt that there are companies out there, but maybe there are, maybe I'm wrong. But what's happening, and what I've noticed that's been happening already, is that this awareness of an AI model and this chat GPT friend kind of whispering into our ears is already being built up. And to the extent that even I think last week or the week before, I was in a project call where it was an early kind of requirement gathering call where they had to change a kind of an pretty old and heavy process based on a
Mhm.
Visual Basics macro, and they had to build it into the SAP Business Technology platform, right? And then suddenly there were, I think, two or three SAP developers listening to this, and they were like, "Oh, hang on, but we unfortunately we don't have anybody that knows Visual Basics on our team." And then
Mhm.
suddenly somebody unmutes themselves and says, "Hey, what about we just copy and paste this code into ChatGPT and see what it spits out, right?" So this awareness is already being built. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
yeah.
already evolving because people know that there is such a tool, and I think it's definitely on the right track.
Okay, cool. Um, I don't know if you've thought about it. This is specifically in the development area, right? And you mentioned testing, um, but could you envision other areas within SAP? Obviously, data analysis of some sort, or what are your thoughts about potential application areas of this technology? Or is that pushing you a little too far, asking you for that?
It's difficult for me to talk about these kind of functional processes and how AI would be integrated. I know that SAP had a product
Hmm.
called, I think, Chatbot AI or something like this,
Hmm.
based on BTP. But honestly, I wouldn't feel competent enough to talk about it. So I'd rather not go into details there.
That's fine.
But on sticking to the technical side of things.
Mhm.
I would envision that ChatGPT could also help us with this architectural point or architectural aspect of building new solutions, right? So now we have BTP, which is this business technology platform,
Mhm.
and a lot of and business technology platform is full of different services that can be enabled and consumed that speed up innovation and help with development. But it's still kind of like a gray area for many customers who don't really know where to start, right? So they have their business requirement, and back 10 years ago they would have probably built it in their on-premise system
Mhm.
with a GUI application, and now there are so many different new capabilities. So I would envision something like taking a requirement document and maybe summarizing it, sending it to ChatGPT, and then asking, okay, could you tell me what services would serve the purpose? What could I avail of to make this easier? I think it could potentially evolve this way. And
Okay.
another big thing, but again, I'm going to stick to the technical side. So sorry, but this is just my nature. I see
Okay.
everything in zeros, ones and zeros. But another big kind of thing that we've been hearing for the last few months or years now is low code and no code, right?
Mhm.
So tools that can be used by business users, by some new concept called citizen developers. So that would be non-technical people who can literally open an app, start kind of dragging and dropping things or elements in and out, and basically generate an application which can then be integrated into their business, right? So
Okay.
instead of having 10 different Excel files that you would have on your desktop to do your little processes, you could spend some time build an app and kind of make it public within the company and start using it. It sounds
Right.
better, right? Well,
Mhm.
the thing is, um, I've kind of played around with it. It's called SAP Build now. It's I think last year in October. I can't remember when TechEd was. Could have been October last year.
Mhm.
This new suite of no code, low code tools was announced called SAP Build. And as part of that, because I'm not sure if you're aware, back in 2021, SAP acquired AppGyver, which was I think a startup from Finland. I'm
Yes,
not sure, but
it is.
I think it was right. Yeah. Okay, perfect. And they're basically investing a lot of time into this to address this kind of shortage of SAP professionals as well, right? So
Yeah,
technical SAP professionals. And
sure.
I've played around with it. Maybe long story short, I've played around with it, and I came to the conclusion that it's also not that anybody can come in and start building apps. It's not that straightforward that you can just drag and drop, and this whole tool will know everything about formatting, about some connection to APIs, etc. There's still that little bit of technical knowledge that's required to make proper use of it. And this is also something that I was thinking about, and maybe this is a good direction of adopting ChatGPT, right? So you
Yeah.
have the no-code tools which can be used by non-technical people, and then you have ChatGPT, who's your technical friend, to fill in this gap for whenever the technical knowledge is required. So this, again, as I said at the beginning, a lot of this is all hypothetical because we don't really know, how far it'll go, how well integrated into the SAP technology it will be, and so it's
Hmm.
a lot of it. It could be kind of a crystal ball at this point.
So, Mateusz, so what are your own thoughts about how you would like to proceed from here, exploring this opportunity, or maybe recommendations for others?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. It's actually an interesting topic. I mean, interesting question, right? Because everything is hypothetical, but how can we actually put it to practice? Um, and as I briefly stated, I would be still kind of careful with about the potential vulnerabilities. So I'll most likely not be copying any customer code from their on-premise or cloud systems into ChatGPT to because it could lead to some potential legal issues. But I think I would personally, and I would probably recommend other developers to also do the same, is I would be using ChatGPT to build any kind of scaffolding for classes, reports, CDS views, etc. Because when you feed it with enough context, it is actually pretty good. I mean, on the simple things, right? It knows database tables, it knows field names, so it's pretty okay even for a little bit more complex joins. And I think, Klaus, you mentioned you will link the article, my article on ChatGPT, and I think I even have a case in there where I've asked it to create a pretty, maybe not a very complex CDS view, but a little bit on the complex side of things, and I think it did a pretty good job. So ChatGPT can already be used to build bases, so baselines for programming going forward. So I think that's I would leave it at that for now, and then obviously keep exploring further options, further use cases that I tend to share on my LinkedIn profile as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Uh, Mateus, that about wraps it up for today. I want to thank you for your time and your insight. It's been very insightful and interesting to listen to. And I'm sure we will hear more about further developments in the future. I just want to thank you for your time and for being here.
Thank you very much, Klaus. Thanks again for having me, and yeah, speak to you soon. Maybe with we'll record a V2.0 when ChatGPT 4 comes out, and I start playing with it.
Sure. Cool. Thank
Cheers.
you very much. Take care.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.